We've talked in the past about 501c3 charitable purposes, what they are, and how they're defined. Today we're going to start a series where we spend a little more time exploring each of the categories and looking at the types of nonprofits that might fit into each. Stick around after the intro and we'll jump into it. Hello and welcome back to our 501c3 University channel, where we strive to make nonprofit issues understandable. I'm Greg McRae, founder and CEO of Foundation Group, and if you like this video, we would really appreciate it if you clicked that like button, as it really helps out our channel. Then go ahead and subscribe while you're at it. That way you don't miss any of the new videos we're posting on a regular basis. We really appreciate it. 501c3 charitable purpose. Well, we've established the fact that all 501c3 nonprofits must satisfy a charitable purpose. We put out a video a while back where we looked at each category and briefly described them. In fact, it's one of our most watched videos. We'll put a link to that in the description below. In that video, we said that the acceptable categories of charitable purposes that qualify for 501c3 status are as follows: religious, educational, scientific, literary, testing for public safety, amateur sports promotion, prevention of cruelty to animals and children, and a roll-up category considered generally charitable. Today I'm going to take a deeper look at the religious category. We'll actually produce a short video on each of these categories over the next several weeks. Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code states that promotion of religion is a charitable purpose that qualifies for tax-exempt status. Now, interestingly, the IRS treads pretty lightly when it comes to religion. In fact, they really don't try to define it, and that's a good thing. The definition of religion is really in the hearts and minds of the believer, and that can span a pretty wide gamut of possibilities. Federal law merely states that to qualify as religious, your beliefs must be 1, truly and sincerely held, and 2, your activities don't violate other well-established law as a manner of acting. For example, if you truly and sincerely believe that Christ was God who took on flesh and gave his life and was resurrected to redeem sinful man, that's religion. By the same token, if you truly and sincerely believe that the pinnacle of religion is understanding and aligning with the 7 chakras, well, that's religion too. So essentially, any nonprofit entity that exists for the primary purpose of promoting religion qualifies for 501c3 status. But what's interesting is the variety of organizational types that satisfy this purpose and how the IRS treats them differently. The first category I'll go over here is the general promotion of religion. Now, the IRS doesn't actually have a category named general promotion of religion. That's just what I'm calling it here. But in this group of entities is any nonprofit that has the primary purpose of promoting religion, but isn't a church or a religious order, the other 2 subcategories that I'll talk about next. Examples that I would put in the general promotion of religion category include missionary organizations, evangelistic ministries, an independent seminary that isn't connected to a church, or basically any nonprofit that teaches or promotes religious activity as its primary function. Now, this list looks rather Christian, and I suppose that's true given my personal filter, but you could just as easily include a Buddhist study group or a Jewish nonprofit that provides instruction in the Torah or the Talmud. The possibilities go on and on. What is common among groups that fall into this general promotion of religion category, however, is the need to follow the same universal procedures as other 501c3s to get launched and to maintain 501c3 status. Those being incorporate, file Form 1023 to apply for 501c3 status. Once approved as a 501c3, file Form 990, what amounts to your annual tax return every year without fail, and make sure you continue to qualify as a 501c3 by consistently fulfilling a religious purpose. Our next subcategory is that of a church. A church is defined for IRS purposes as a specific type of religious organization that has several defining characteristics, including the conduct of organized religious worship, a congregation that meets regularly at a defined tangible place, a clergy or clergy members that leads the congregation, a defined belief system and or creed, and finally, religious instruction of children. Now, it's important to point out that this list is very subjective. Organizations can be approved as churches with only some of this list satisfied. It really just depends on the weight of evidence when the IRS is reviewing the 501c3 application. What you will notice here is an interesting thing, and that's the need for a regular place of worship. At least as of now, the IRS expects that to be a real place, not a virtual place. We get asked quite often about helping someone establish a virtual online church, and that will work, but it only works as a generally religious charity, not as a church. Will the IRS eventually cave on that? Hard to say, as they've never mentioned it that I'm aware of. The other part of this subcategory is what's called associations of churches. Think of these as denominations or groups of churches, such as the Southern Baptist or the Presbyterian Church in America denominations. The IRS makes no distinction between a local congregation and these greater collectives of churches. So why does any of this matter? What's the difference between qualifying as a church versus as a generally religious charity if both are considered religious for 501c3 purposes? Well, it comes down to two primary reasons. Number one is the process for obtaining 501c3 status. Churches and associations of churches are considered 501c3 automatically just by virtue of existing. In other words, a church doesn't have to apply to the IRS for a 501c3 determination letter in order to be 501c3. It just is one. Now, this is spelled out in the Internal Revenue Code under Section 508A. There's a lot of misunderstanding and misinformation about this topic, and I mean a ridiculous amount. Time will not permit me to go into detail in this video, so check out the other two we've already done about the topic of automatic exemption for churches, linked in the description below. And for what it's worth, although churches have this status of 501c3 tax exemption by default, we highly recommend most churches seek official 501c3 determination by filing Form 1023 anyway. There's a variety of reasons for that, one of which is that it's better for your donors. Like I said, you really have to check out the other videos on this topic. It's worth your time. The second reason why the difference between a church and a generally religious charity matters comes after you've obtained 501c3 status. Churches are exempt from filing Form 990 every year. They simply don't have to do it. They can do it voluntarily, and a few do, but most don't. That exception, however, does not relieve the necessity of having to operate in a tax-exempt manner and maintaining accurate books and records. So don't get sloppy simply because you don't have to file a Form 990. Our third subcategory of religious organization is the religious order. Now, religious orders are interesting organizations. There aren't many of them by numeric standards, so I'll just hit the high points. A religious order is a group of adherents who live together communally and maintain a life of separation from society at large for the purpose of studying and living out their religion. Monasteries can fall into this category. Generally speaking, religious orders are connected to a church or association of churches by affiliation, but religious orders often seek their own 501c3 status. The reason is that their members may receive tax exclusions, like the requirement to participate in Social Security by being a member of that religious order. Now, that is a very complicated conversation that we will not have time to bother with today. Religious orders do have to file for 501c3 recognition as a religious charity. They can't get that automatically like a church can. They are, however, generally exempt from filing Form 990 each year, so long as they are organized for exclusively religious purposes. Bet you didn't realize these categories of charitable purposes could go so deep, did you? It's like peeling an onion. There's layer after layer. I hope you learned a little bit more about the 501c3 religious category. Stay tuned over the next several weeks as we explore more about each of these qualifying charitable purposes. Until next time, thanks for watching. Now go serve your community. Hey, do me a favor and don't navigate away just yet. We would really appreciate it if you would hit the like button below, as it really helps get our content recommended to more people. Subscribe if you haven't already, as we have great content coming your way on a regular basis. Finally, you can click the little bell icon to be notified of new content when we post it. To learn more about Foundation Group, you can visit us on the web at www.501c3.org. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.